Hello and welcome to the Printable Cuttable Creatables YouTube channel. My name is Lynn, or LV Handcrafted, here on YouTube, and today I am going to make a t-shirt with some heat transfer vinyl. I have my t-shirt here, and all I'm going to do is just roughly measure it and get a sense for how large I want my design to be on the front of this shirt. You can just sort of, I think there are some reference guides for how far below the neckline you might want to position your graphic, but I really just eyeball things based on what I think might look good. And I'll jot down some numbers in terms of approximately the height I'm going for and the width I'm shooting for. The nice thing about working with the Printable Cuttable Creatables digital files is that they come in a lot of different file formats, and some of them, in particular the SVG file, is a vector graphic, so you can scale it up and down without actually losing the resolution. So here I've brought this, the I'd rather be reading separated file, and you can see all of the various different components. They are each on a separate layer. And this is actually from the Book Lovers bundle, which comes with a lot of digis. But the one I'm choosing to work with it's really fun. It says, "I'd rather be reading," which I love. And I know that my sister-in-law will really love because she's an educator and a librarian. So she is going to really enjoy this t-shirt. So what I'm doing is, even though all of the different layers are spaced out, I like to just overlap them so that I can see how it looks when it's fully assembled. The thing is that when you go to make this file, you could definitely just send it to your Cricut and make it without doing this step or any of the following steps I'll show, and it will work just fine. However, I like to do this just so that I can really get a sense for how this is supposed to look when it's fully assembled. That's the first thing. Second, I also like to do this so that I can actually make it a little bit easier for myself to apply the vinyl to the t-shirt later, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. Because if you were to send this to your Cricut to make it, what it will do is essentially everything that is the same color, it is going to cut in the same pass, but what it'll do is it sees those as individual elements, and it's going to try to position them on your substrate in the most efficient way. So see here how the I'd rather be and that arch, they're side by side. That's not how it looks when it's actually on the shirt, the way that it's designed. But this makes the least amount of waste when you go to cut it. So what I'm actually going to do is just ungroup things and rearrange them. So when you do that, you might lose some of the coloring, which I did here. That's no big deal. We can go back and add the colors later. But I'm going to move things around so that the things that were previously the same color, so for example, the words "I'd rather be" and one of the arches, I want to group those together, but then I want to hit the attach button. The attach button is actually going to fix those two in their position. And then when you go to make it, it will actually cut it as you see it positioned. So I'm going to go through and do that with each of the different sets. So here you can see how I'd rather be. Now the arch is below it because we attach those two layers to one another. And yes, this will waste more vinyl, but now those two are where they need to be, and it's going to be easier for me when I go to actually do the heat transfer to position them together at the same time because they're already positioned that way on the vinyl, as opposed to positioning them individually. Then you have to, when you're using heat transfer vinyl, be sure to mirror your image before you go to cut it, because heat transfer vinyl does have a protective liner on one side. When we put this through our cutting machine, we're cutting through the vinyl on top and the protective liners on the bottom. However, when you go to transfer this onto your t-shirt, in my case, we'll be flipping that upside down so that the vinyl is touching the shirt and the protective liner is now on top. And because we're flipping it upside down, that's why we need to mirror it when we go to cut it, especially if you're working with a design that actually has words on it. So I've gone ahead and mirrored everything. Then I'll put my vinyl onto my cutting mat. I like to brayer it so that it makes nice contact and is well adhered. Then you want to load your mat. You click that first flashing button to load it, and then the second button will start to flash, and then we can just push that and watch the Cricut do its magic. So each different color that you want to cut out will need to get loaded onto its own mat, and you'll have to go through that same process. So when it's done, you unload it and keep feeding your vinyl in one at a time. So I won't show all of them, but just to show a little bit of the cutting process here. It's really fun to watch the Cricut do its magic. And once it's done, then you can unload everything. And the next step is to actually do what's called weeding. So I like to just trim down my design so that I'm working with a smaller piece, and then you want to pull off the vinyl that is actually not part of the design. So all of the vinyl that's surrounding your design needs to get pulled off so that it doesn't actually transfer onto your shirt. And that's why when you do that little trick of attaching those elements, it does waste more vinyl, because you're going to end up with, like for instance, this red piece, there's that big open area below the arch and where the little heart is. This could have been cut a lot more efficiently if you let the Cricut just do what it would normally do. But I think the trade-off is worth it, because it's going to be a lot easier to position, especially those small little elements like that little itty-bitty heart. It'll be so much easier to position that when it's on this larger liner that actually has 3 elements on it, as opposed to a small little heart on its own. So that's why I like to do it this way. And once I have all of my elements on their individual sort of carrier sheets, I've weeded out all of the excess vinyl. I do like to do a little bit of a dry fit. And again, this is so that I really understand how the design should look when it's done, and also what order to apply the vinyl, because we're going to have to do this in multiple steps when we go to heat press it. For example, the book pages, there's actually a portion of that gets covered with the red layer that has the spine or the cover of the book. So that gray layer needs to be underneath the red layer. And the blue layer, there's a little bit of an overlap of some of the lettering, so that should be the last layer. Then when I go to press this, I won't show that, but here's the final shirt. And when you go to press this, you'll want to press it in the reverse order that it was stacked. So starting with white and then going all the way to the blue layer, which was my last layer. So really, really fun. I think for me, doing that little trick of attaching the layers that are the same color really makes this whole process so much easier. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye!